All right, we are back. We are back. She is bad, y'all. Look at this. That's a baddie right here. A baddie. A baddie who got body. Aha. Alright, let me get back to what we're doing before I get too distracted. Alright, chat, we are back. Back in action. It's charging. Yes. Right. Yes. Okay. So the 6 basic fears are fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love of someone, and the fear of old age, and the fear of death. All other fears are of minor importance. They can be grouped under these 6 headings. The prevalence of these fears as occurs to the word runs in cycles. For almost 6 years, while the Depression was on, we floundered in the cycle of fear of poverty. During the World War, we were in a cycle of fear of death. Just following the war, we were in a cycle of fear of ill health, just like COVID that we just went through. As evidenced by the epidemic of disease, which spread itself all over the world. Fears are nothing more than states of mind. One state of mind is subject to control and direction. Physicians, as everyone knows, are less subject to attacks of disease than ordinary people. The reason is because physicians do not fear disease. Physicians without fear or hesitation have been known to physically contact hundreds of people daily who are suffering from such contagious disease as smallpox without becoming infected. Their humanity, their humanity, humanity, humanity. How do you say this word? Humanity. Immune. Okay, there you go. Their immunity against the disease. Oh, look at that. Shine on me, great one. What a blessing, man. Shine. Where was I? Their immunity. Okay. Their immunity against the disease consisted largely, if not solely, on their absolute lack of fear. A man can create nothing that he does not first conceive in the form of an impulse of thought. Following thought impulses begin immediately to translate themselves into physical equivalent, whether those thoughts are voluntary or involuntary. You know, intrusive thoughts, right? That's what we're talking about here. Intrusive thoughts. I need to write this one down. There's a Willow song. I can't think of the name right now, but she sang about it. I like Willow. She's cool. Intrusive thoughts. Yeah, big shout out to Willow. Go listen to her new album. It's dope. It came out a while back, but you know, there's a lot of gems in there. Man can create nothing that he does not first conceive in the form of an impulse of thought. Following this statement comes another still greater importance, namely, man's thought impulses begin immediately to translate themselves into their physical equivalent, whether those thoughts are involuntary or voluntary. Thought impulses, which are picked up through the ether by mere chance, thoughts which have been released by other minds, may determine one's financial, business, professional, or social destiny, just as surely as do the thought impulses which one creates by intent and design. Basically, you know, you attract what you think about. So the main question is, what are you thinking about? You know, one way that Bob Proctor talked about how to reach a goal, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, if you want to reach a goal, according to Bob Proctor, all you got to do is basically write it down on a card and carry that card with you every day, and just look at your goal throughout the day. And the fact that you're looking at your goal throughout the day, you're going to think about it. And the more you think about it, the more you're going to attract things that are going to manifest you actually having the thing that you're thinking about. I mean, think about it. Can you do anything you can't think about? Probably not. So how about using that great power to your advantage? You know, making money, for example. I carry money with me. That's my card. I look at it a lot, and as you can, I'm doing something about it now. As you can tell, you know, it's called the money consciousness. We are here laying the foundation of the presentation of the fact of great importance to the person who does not understand why some people appear to be lucky, while others of equal or greater ability, training, and experience and brain capacity seem destined to ride with misfortune. This fact may be explained by the statement that every human being has the ability to completely control his own mind. And with this control, obviously every person may open his mind to the trained thought impulses which are being released by other brains, or close the door tightly and admit only thought impulses of his own choice. I was listening to somebody that listened to my videos or whatever, like my latest video, and she was like, she doesn't understand any of it. That's sad. And I hope that's not the case, but if you guys are not really familiar with something or have questions, leave a comment, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna make another video and explain whatever it is that you don't understand, you know. The reason I'm doing this thing is so that we can all benefit from it. So, yeah, I don't want to hear that you didn't understand what I do, because, you know, that's what I do. That's what I'm here for. Okay. And with that, let's see if I can do this. This fact may be explained by the statement that every human being has the ability to complete and control his own mind. And with this control, obviously, every person may open his mind to the strength thought impulses which are being released by other brains, or close the door tightly and admit only thought impulses of his own choice. Nature has endowed man with absolute control over but one thing, and that is thought. This is beautiful. Look at this sign. Look at this sign. Yeah, that's right. That's right. This fact, coupled with the additional fact that everything which man creates begins in the form of thought, leads one very near to the principle by which fear may be mastered. With it is true, if it is true that all thought has a tendency to clothe itself into its physical equivalent, and that is true beyond any reasonable room for doubt. Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z's first album. I'm starting to think that he got his stuff from this book. But you know, let me read that again. If it is true that all thought has, you know what? Y'all go and listen to Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z's first album, and you tell me what you think. I think he got it from this book. I'm gonna just put it out there. If it is true that all thought has a tendency to clothe itself in its physical equivalent, and that is true beyond any reasonable room for doubt, it is... Okay, now I gotta put this in here. Jay-Z. Reasonable Doubt. How do you spell doubt? Okay. If it is true that all thought has a tendency to clothe itself into its physical equivalent, and it is true beyond any reasonable doubt, it is equally true that thought impulses of fear and poverty cannot be translated into terms of courage and financial gain. The people of America began to think of poverty following the Wall Street crash of 1929. Slowly but surely, that mass thought was crystallized into its physical equivalent, which was known as the Depression. This had to happen. It is in conformity with the laws of nature. The fear of poverty. There can be no compromise between poverty and riches. The two roads that lead to poverty and riches travel in opposite directions. If you want riches, you must refuse to accept any circumstance that leads towards poverty. The word riches is here used in its broadest sense, meaning financial, spiritual, mental, and material estate. So it's not just money, it's more than that. Because once you get the money, you want to be able to have that peace of mind to enjoy it. I see a lot of people that have a lot of money, but they are so stressed, It's like, why are you getting all this money just to be stressed out? It's not making any sense. The starting point of the path that leads to riches is desire. In chapter 1, you received full instructions for the proper use of desire. In this chapter on fear, you have complete instructions for preparing your mind to make practical use of desire. Here then is a place to give yourself a challenge which will definitely determine how much of this philosophy you have absorbed. Here is the point. Oh yes, this is beautiful. Beauty. Okay, where was I? I got lost. Okay, I'll just do it over. Here then is a place to give yourself a challenge which will deeply determine how much of this philosophy you have absorbed. Here is the point at which you can turn prophet and foretell accurately what the future holds in store for you. If after reading this chapter you are willing to accept poverty, you may as well make up your mind to receive poverty. This is one decision you cannot avoid. If you demand riches, on the other hand, what form and how much will be acquired to satisfy you? You gotta be specific. You can't just be like, oh, I want plenty of money. No, you gotta be like, no, I want 20 billion. I want 40,000. I want a million. I want 20 million, 40 million, 100 million. You gotta have a target, like a specific target. You know the road that leads to riches. You have been given a roadmap, which, if followed, will keep you on that road. If you neglect to make the start or stop before you arrive, no one will be to blame but you. This responsibility is yours. No alibi will save you from accepting the responsibility. If you now fail or refuse to demand riches of life, because the acceptance call for but one thing, incidentally, the only thing you can control, and that is a state of mind. Basically, only you can control what you think about. Nobody can make you think anything but you. A state of mind is something that one assumes. It cannot be purchased. It must be created. Fear of poverty is a state of mind, nothing else. But it is sufficient to destroy one's chances of achievement in any undertaking. A truth which became painfully evident during the Depression. This fear paralyzes the faculty of reason, destroys the faculty of imagination, kills off self-reliance, undermines enthusiasm, discourages initiative, and leads to uncertainty of purpose, encourages procrastination, wipe out enthusiasm, and makes self-control an impossibility. It takes the charm from your own personality. It's sneaky, like I was saying before. It's going to be in a form that you might not even be able to detect easily. Destroys the ability of accurate thinking and diverts concentration efforts. It masters persistence, turns willpower into nothingness, destroys ambition, beclouds a person's memory, and invites failure in every conceivable form. It kills love and assassinates the finer emotion of the heart, discourages friendship, and invites disaster in 100 of forms. It leads sleeplessness, misery, and unhappiness. And all of this despite the obvious truth that we live in a world of overabundance of everything the heart could desire, with nothing standing in between us and the desires, excepting lack of definite purpose. You can be and you can do anything you want to do or be. Forget whatever they've been telling you, that you can't do this because of that, or you can't do that because of this. A lot of people said I couldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. And guess what? I'm doing it. Yeah. So you can do it. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. You just got to put one foot in front of the other, step by step. Like Broski said. You know what I mean? Step by step. The fear of poverty is, without doubt, the most destructive of the 6 basic fears. It has been placed at the head of the list because it is the most difficult to master. Still greater courage to accept the truth after it has been stated. The fear of poverty grew out of man's inherited tendency to prey upon his fellow man economically. And I'm going to make another Jay-Z reference. I'm sorry. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. But I was watching one of his speech, right? I think is when he got the Hall of Fame award, the Dr. Dre's Hall of Fame award. I forgot the exact name. But he said something like, you know, you got to keep showing up. You got to keep showing up until they call you the best ever. You got to keep showing up until they give you the recognition that you feel you deserve, you know? So, yeah. Where was I? I get lost. I get lost in the passion of things, you know? So, I'm going to just do it like this. The fear of poverty is without doubt the most destructive of the 6 basic fears. It has been placed at the head of the list because it is the most difficult to master. Considerable courage is required to state the truth about the origin of fear, and still greater courage to accept truth after it has been stated. The fear of poverty grew out of man's inherited tendency to prey upon his fellow man economically. Nearly all animals lower than man are motivated by instincts, but their capacity to think is limited. Therefore, they prey upon one another physically. Man, with his superior sense of intuition, with the capacity to think and to reason, does not eat his fellow man bodily, but he gets more satisfaction out of eating him financially. You know, 360 deals, whatever you know what I mean? When people talk about they sold their soul, that's what they're talking about. Man is so avaricious that every considerable law that has been passed to save that every considerable law has been passed to safeguard him from his fellow man. All of the ages of the world of which we know anything, the age in which we live seems to be one that is outstanding because of man's money madness. A man is considered less than dust on the earth unless he can display a fat bank account. That's true. I mean, unless you got money, nobody gonna listen to you. Unless you're a billionaire, you're not really making any noise. That's the world we live in. But if he has money, never mind how he acquired it. He is king. He is big shot. He is above the law. He rules in politics. He dominates in business. And the whole world about him bows in respect when he passes. Nothing brings man so much suffering and humility as poverty. Only those who have experienced poverty understand the full meaning of this. It is no wonder that man fears poverty. Through a long line of inherited experiences, man has learned for sure that some men cannot be trusted where matters of money and earthly possessions are concerned. This is a rather significant indictment, the worst part of it being that it is true. The majority of marriages are motivated by money. That's why most marriages end up in divorce, because of money. It's not about love no more, unfortunately. It is no wonder, therefore, that the divorce courts are busy. So eager is man to possess wealth that he will acquire it in whatever manner he can, through legal methods if possible, or through other methods if necessary or expedient. They're going to get it how they live, basically. They're going to get it how they live. Self-analysis may disclose weaknesses which one does not like to acknowledge. Nobody likes the mirror, including me. Trust me, I got plenty of flaws. I'm working on myself as we speak. Self-analysis may disclose weakness which one does not like to acknowledge. This form of examination is essential to all who demand of life more than mediocrity and poverty. Remember, as you check yourself point by point, that you are both the court and the jury. The prosecuting attorney and the attorney for the defense. And that you are the plaintiff and the defendant also. That you are on trial. And that brings me to one of the latest Will Smith songs called Work of Art. So it was by Will Smith and his son Jaden. And Will Smith talked about it. It's dope. Face the facts squarely. Ask yourself definite questions and demand direct replies. When the examination is over, you will know more about yourself. If you do not feel that you can be an impartial judge in this self-examination. Like, ask somebody to help you to tell you the truth about yourself, Somebody that's not going to sugarcoat things so that you can rectify it. Call upon someone who knows you well to serve as judge while you cross-examine yourself. You are after the truth. Get it, no matter what cost, even though it may be temporarily embarrassing. The majority of people, if asked what they fear most, will reply, I fear nothing. The reply would be inaccurate because few people realize that they are bound, handicapped, and whipped spiritually and physically through some form of fear. Like I said, I didn't think I was, afraid of certain things. But I was. What could you do if you had no fear? You could do anything if you had no fear. But that's the thing. How many people are doing anything? People come up with justification for this or for that. And basically that means they're afraid. But they won't admit it. It's hard to look at the mirror. The fear is so subtle and deeply seated in the emotion of fear that one may go through life burdened with it, never recognizing its presence. Only a courageous analysis will disclose the presence of this universal enemy. When you begin such an analysis, search deeply into your character. Here's a list of the symptoms for which you should look. The symptoms of fear of poverty. Indifference, commonly expressed through lack of ambition, willingness to tolerate poverty, acceptance of whatever compensation life may offer you without protest, mental and physical laziness, lack of initiative, imagination, enthusiasm, and self-control. That's where I was at. I was watching porn all day. Indecision, the habit of permitting others to do one's thinking, staying on the fence. Doubt, generally expressed through alibis and excuses designed to cover up, explain away, or apologize for one's failure, sometimes expressed in the form of envy of those who are successful. or by criticizing them. Worry, usually expressed by finding fault with others, a tendency to spend beyond one's income. Neglect of personal appearance, scowling or frowning. Intemperance in the use of alcohol drinks, meaning like if you're drinking a lot. Sometimes through the use of narcotics, weed and stuff. I got an issue with that one, because I like weed. I like weed, but it's a narcotic, man. So yeah, we all got stuff that we need to work on. Nervousness, lack of poise, self-consciousness, and lack of self-reliance. Overcaution, the habit of looking for a negative side of every circumstance. Overthinking and talking of possible failure instead of concentrating upon the means of succeeding. Knowing all the roads to disaster but never searching for the plans to avoid failure. Waiting for the right time to begin putting ideas and plans into action. Until the waiting becomes a permanent habit. Remembering those who have failed and forgetting those who have succeeded. Seeing the hole in the donut but overlooking the donut. Pessimism, leading to indigestion, poor elimination, auto-intoxication, bad breath. Your breath stank. One of my ex used to tell me that all the time. Nigga, your breath stink. I took it the bad way, man. I took it the bad way. I should have, took personal accountability. It's key. Personal accountability is key. Where was I, man? I got lost again. Procrastination. There's a lot of noise going on. Procrastination, the habit of putting off until tomorrow that which should have been done last year. Spending enough time in creating alibis and excuses to have done the job. This symptom is closely related to overcaution, doubt, and worry. Refusal to accept responsibility when it can be avoided. Willingness to compromise rather than put up a stiff fight. Compromising with difficulty instead of harnessing and using them as fuel, stepping stone to advancement. Bargaining with life's penny. Bargaining with life for a penny instead of demanding prosperity and opulence. Reaches contentment and happiness. Planning what to do if and when overtaken by failure. That's when people talk about, oh, you gotta have a backup plan, what if it doesn't work? Yeah. Nah, man, like Will Smith said, you gotta have a plan and that's it. That's it, that's that, and yeah, the universe gonna get out your way when you focus on what it is that you want to do. That's it. And no time for plan B, whatever, because if you got a plan B, you're probably not even doing anything because you're thinking like, it's not gonna work. Just like an interview that I saw where there was a married couple and the man was basically the provider, right? He was making all the money, all that. And he told his wife, like, baby, look, I'm gonna take care of the money, but I'm gonna let you handle the finances. You know what I mean? I'm gonna bring the money in and you handle it and do what you do to make sure that we're good. You know what I mean? Put it somewhere, make it grow. And you know what this woman did? She was taking some of the money away into her escape account. You know what I mean? That's crazy. In case they break up or whatever. In case of a divorce. That's crazy because that means you don't really have faith in the marriage that you are in. You're not willing to put in the work in what you're doing. Bottom line. I can't go for that. No, sir. Okay, where was I? I got off in a tangent again. Where was I? Where was I, chat? Where was that? Where was I at, chat? I got lost in my train of thoughts. That is weakness of. Okay, hold on. Okay, I was up there. All right. So basically, planning what to do if and when overtaken by failure, instead of burning all bridges and making retreat impossible. Weakness and often total lack of self-confidence, definiteness of purpose, self-control, initiative, enthusiasm, ambition, thrift. You know, for the people who love to go thrift, how you say? Thrift. I'm not even gonna thrift. Okay, hold on. Thrift. You know, the thrift store. You know, the thrift store where you can buy stuff for cheap. And sound reasoning ability. Accepting poverty instead of demanding riches. Association with those who have accepted poverty instead of seeking the company of those who demand and receive riches. That's big. That's big. You gotta be careful who you're around, you know what I mean? Because chances are you're gonna, do similar things to the people that you hang out with. That's just a fact. And I had to cut off somebody recently because she was doing a lot of trauma dumping, And I'm not even going to go into that. It's in my previous videos. And I got lost again. Great. Alright, where was I? Okay, cool. Money talks. Someone asked, why did you write a book about money? Why measure riches in dollar alone? Some believe, and rightly so, that there are other forms of riches more desirable than money. Yes, there are riches which cannot be measured in terms of dollar. But there are millions of people who say, give me all the money I need and I will find everything else I want. I don't even understand that part of the game. The major reason why I wrote this book on how to get money is the fact that the world has but lately passed through an experience that left millions of men and women paralyzed with the fear of poverty. That this sort of fear does one. Okay, hold on. What this sort of fear does to one, as well described by Westbrook Pegler in the New York World Telegram. Money is only clamshell, or metal disc, or scrap of paper, and there are treasures of the heart and soul which money cannot buy. Like I was saying before, money is not everything. It's great, but once you get there, you want to be able to actually enjoy life to the fullest. But most people being broke are unable to keep their mind and sustain their spirit. When man is down and out and on the street, unable to get any job at all, something happens in his spirit which can be observed in the droop of his shoulders, the set in his hat, his walk, his gaze. He cannot escape a feeling of inferiority among people with regular employment, even though he knows they are definitely not his equals in character, intelligence, or ability. These people, even his friends, feel, on the other hand, a sense of superiority and regard him, perhaps unconsciously, as a casualty. He may borrow for a time, but not enough to carry on his accustomed way, and he cannot continue to borrow very long. So this is sounding like me, guys. That's how I used to be, truth be told. But borrowing in itself, when a man is borrowing merely to live, is a depressing experience. And the money lacks the power of earned money and revive his spirit. To revive his spirit. Of course, none of this applies to bums or habitual never do wells, but only to normal men of ambition and self-respect. Alright, ladies, now we're going to talk about y'all, so don't get upset. I know y'all love being right all the time, and I know y'all right, but I'm just reading the book, so don't come at me. I don't want no smoke. I'm just reading the book. Women conceal despair. Women in the same predicament must be different when somehow do not think of women at all in considering the down and outers. They are scarce in their breadlines. They are rarely seen begging on the streets, and they are not recognizable in crowds by the same plain sight signs which identify busted men. With that being said, there's a song that I love that Doja Cat made, and that song is called what is this song called? Yes. It's called Imagine. Doja Cat Imagine. And if you pay attention to the lyrics, she talks about how she went from being bummy to being completely unrelatable. Meaning like she got so much money that her conversation don't even relate to regular people. You know, she talking, you know what I mean? She talking the money talk, you know? And that song is amazing. Like I be bumping that song like a lot. And you can tell that she really came from the bottom, you know what I mean? But one important thing that she said is that a lot of the people around her had no faith at all. But what she did was she worked hard, but she prayed harder. Pay attention to this. She worked hard, but she prayed harder. And the results came in the form of abundance. You know what I mean? She got she got big money now. You know, she's unrelatable to normal people. That's why, you know, people think or thought that she's weird or she got that weird whatever. A lot of it, you know, she's weird, but that's okay. That's her. That's how she expresses herself. That's cool. But, you know what I'm trying to say. She became unrelatable to regular folks. You know? Of course, I do not mean the shuffling hags of the city streets who are opposite number of the confirmed male bums. I mean reasonably young, decent, and intelligent women. There must be many of them, but their despair is not apparent. Maybe they kill themselves. When a man is down and out, he has time on his hands for brooding. He may travel miles to see a man about a job and discover that the job is